everyone. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us today for the second edition of Quantum Talks. So before we begin, let me give a huge shout out to Chris, Tony, and everyone else who's a part of this QMAD initiative to put together this awesome series of new Quantum Talks. All right, so let's get things started. I'm going to make a small adjustment, a small change to my topic today. Instead of talking about the vast topic of how to do a proper presentation, I'm going to talk about how to do a rapid presentation. Because in this setup, we'll only have a short period of time and we need to make some adjustments. So this entire presentation, this entire talk will be focused on that. So if I go over time a bit, I beg your pardon ahead of time, and let's get things started. All right. So here's the agenda. Here are the things we'll be discussing today. So first, we'll be talking about the structure of a presentation, and then we'll be touch upon a bit about the best practices, what we have to do when we are doing a presentation. And of course, at the end of this presentation, we'll have a Q&A session where you can ask any questions related to this topic. All right. So Guinness World Record holder Robert M. Hansen once said that structure builds minds into great monuments. Similarly, in a presentation or in your speech, so whatever the list of details you have, a list of points you have, you need structure to make it into a better presentation. So then again, you might wonder, why do I need a structure to do a quick presentation? Why do I have to follow a structure? So most of us here today are engineers working on client projects. And at the end of every sprint, you might have to do a client demo. So if you work with me on a client project, so before every client demo, I usually give a set of instructions to follow. Prepare a screen recording, prepare a list of things you're going to discuss with the client, and prepare a set of questions as well. So basically, this is the structure. This is the simplest form of a structure that you're presenting to the client or any other stakeholders. But at the end of this presentation, you will get a better understanding of how to present, how to structure your presentation, as well as how to do it more clearly. All right. So this is the structure you will need for any of the presentation you will give today in the future, presentations or speeches you'll give in the future. So I'll be using this cheeseburger analogy to explain the presentation structure. So whatever the burger it is, it could be a cheeseburger, it could be a veggie burger, so it could be what kind of a burger. You'll need to have three main components: the top bun, the patty, and the bottom bun. So it could be whatever the ingredients you put in the middle, but you always have to have these three components. So similarly, in a presentation, you should have the opening and the body as well as the conclusion. So let me start by explaining the opening. All right. So the opening, there are so many things we can focus on in this opening segment, but I'm going to stick into these three points. The first thing is topic. So when I say topic, it's more of a catchphrase, because this is what you're going to reiterate throughout your presentation, and you have to make sure that it's short and sweet and also easy to remember. So I usually recommend to keep in within 10 words. So as an example, how to do a rapid presentation, how to use Jira, how to use how to be a consultant. Likewise, a short topic that will help the audience to remember. And this is the point that they'll be referring to throughout the presentation. And the next, the attention-grabbing opening. So this could be a quote, it could be a question, it could be a joke, or it could be some stats. So if you do a marketing presentation, we can say that these are the numbers we had throughout this last month. So likewise, an attention-grabbing opening will basically help you to grab the attention of the audience. And lastly, and the most important part, is the hook. So whenever we were in the university or when we were in classes, so when we sit through a lengthy presentations or speeches, we always wonder, what's in it for me? So whenever you are doing a presentation, this is a question a speaker should ask themselves before doing a presentation. Why should the audience listen to you? Why should the audience spend 30 minutes or 1 hour to listen to you speak? Actually, this if you have a good answer to this question, that means that you have a good foundation for your presentation. And of course, you have to finish this hook with a promise. So I'm not sure if you can remember, like at the beginning of my presentation, I told you guys that like at the end of this presentation, you'll get a better hang of, etc., etc. So that's the hook. So you are giving something to the audience that will make the audience engage with you throughout the presentation. All right. So let's go to the next part, which is the patty. It could be a beef burger, it could be a veggie burger, whatever it is, the most important part. But the funny thing is, this depends on the subject. So if it's about Jira, then it could be entirely different. So this is where you like actually share your thoughts, share your opinions on the subject matter. But there are a few things we can actually like keep track of when it comes to this particular portion. And so these three are the ones I'm going to explain today. The first thing is, even though you are the subject matter expert, don't put everything you know into your presentation. So pick only the few components that you can explain and explain it during the presentation. And for anything else, either write a blog article, either share the script, whatever it is, do it like that. So I usually recommend going with like 3 to 5 points. It's easier to keep track. It's easier to like explain, and it'll not make the audience like bored to death with too much technical information. And the other thing I would say, like when you come to a slide deck, don't add too much text. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it visual, because we all are visual creatures. So we always like look at like fancy things. So don't add too much content, too much text into presentation, because at the end of the day, the audience is there to listen to you speak, you talk, not to read your presentation, not to read your slides. So if you have something you have to add to your slides, of course, share them with the audience later on. And the second sub part of this point is like, don't read your presentations. So don't read your slides. So let's say that you need to add some kind of like a research finding or something to your presentation, and you are just sitting there and reading the slide deck. So don't do that. So make sure that you add the most important things into your slide, and then share it with the audience members later on. And lastly, this is something I'm guilty of as well, the face. So too fast is always too bad. So whenever you are speaking, because as I said, like you could be the subject matter expert, so you have a better understanding about the subject, so you tend to like speak a little bit faster. But it'll be a little bit difficult for the audience to grab on what you're explaining. So make sure that you give enough pauses throughout your presentation and speak clearly, so the message you want to deliver will be delivered in a proper manner. All right. So I know, like because of the limited time we rushed through the first two portions, but I believe that you have some kind of a clear understanding about the opening as well as the body of a presentation. And lastly, let's discuss about the bottom one, the conclusion. When it comes to conclusion, this is going to be your punchline. This is going to be the take-home message. Again, this depends on your presentation style. This depends on the content. But I would say always like make sure that when you are explaining this part, make sure that you you finish your presentation with a take-home message, because this is the part that the audience will remember you for, basically the juice of the entire content. So make sure that you have a better understanding, better explanation on this topic. And the last recommendation I would give under the conclusion is keep it simple, keep it short. Don't speak for 5 minutes. Don't speak for like 3 minutes about the conclusion, about wrapping things up. Just make sure that you simply say what you have to say and then wrap up the session. And that doesn't mean that the session is over. There are a few more things we have to go. This is only the first part of the presentation. So let's quickly jump into the next part, which is best practices. So right now, just to give you guys a summary, we've explained what's the best presentation structure, and we went through each element. And the best practices, this is not only for the speaker itself, this is for the audience, because whatever the presentation, whatever the speech we deliver, there are two parties like engaged with this entire engagement, the speaker and the audience. So when it comes to best practices, the first thing I would say, like, of course, writing a script could be a tiresome job, but if we since we are not professional speakers with like hundreds of stage time as well as proper training, we can't actually whip up a speech then and there, right? So the next best thing is writing a script. So as you might say, I have my script right here with me. So that's always the best practice, because then you know what structure to follow, what script to what are the things you have to speak to. So it's always a good thing to write a script. And the second thing, I think the marketing team will be will agree with me. So whatever the speech script you write, you can easily convert this into a blog post. So that's the value addition as well. And lastly, do a bit of rehearsal, because as I said, like, we are not professional speakers. We do like some kind of like a presentation time to time. So whenever you will do some kind of like a rehearsal, it always reassure you that you are comfortable with delivering this message and you have the confidence. So it's a bit easier to do. And the next point is like looking at the camera. So as I said, like, these are best practices. So the reason why I'm saying like looking at this camera, so it's been 2 years since we shifted into like working from home setup and everything. So most of us have like multiple like monitor setup at our homes, right? But when we are doing in-person presentation, in-person speech, we always tend to look at the we always try to like maintain the eye contact. Two things, because first thing is like, then you can get the feel from the audience that like whether whatever you are explaining is actually like making sense to the audience. And the other thing is like, it'll give you some kind of like a confidence boost. But when we are doing presentations, if we have like a multi monitor setup, then if we are going to look at a side monitor and just going to like read through the script or the presentation without making eye contact, then that might give the feeling to the audience that like, this guy is not speaking to me, I can just ignore this presentation. So try your best to like look at the camera, look at the audience when you're delivering presentation. Lastly, this is one of the most important thing other than the presentation, the presenter itself, the audience. Because as I said, like, whatever the presentation, whatever the thing you are doing, it's a presentation, right? It's not a recording. It's not a YouTube video. It's not a tutorial. You are doing a presentation. So you're presenting this to an audience. So the audience has a key part to play when it comes to presentation. Because usually like in an in-person like presentation, we can just get the experience and the expression from the audience then and there. We can see like if our punchlines are whether our punchlines are working, whether the audience actually like understand what I'm saying. But in this virtual setup, it's not possible, right? So if we keep our like cameras turned off and during a presentation, then the presenter might not get the best like experience throughout the presentation. So if it's possible, as our part, I would always recommend like turning on our camera during a presentation. So we are just helping out the speaker to give the best during his or her presentation. All right. So I know it's a rushed presentation, rushed speech, but those are the main things I have for this topic. But now we can just go through the Q&A session. And of course, if you have any questions related to this topic, shoot away. I'll try my best to answer. But to get you guys started, I have a few questions prepared. So it'll like just to get the ball going. So the first thing is like how to do a Q&A session during a presentation. So again, like there's a vast topic where we can like go to techniques and what are the special things to do. But there are a few things I would like to explain that will help you to like do a better job when it comes to a Q&A session. So let's say that you get a question, and the first thing you have to do is like reiterate the question. You'll be doing two things by doing this. First thing is you will get some time to understand the question, and the other thing is like you will get the assurance from the audience member who asked the question that that's the question that actually they need the answer to. So always like reiterate the question. And the second thing is take a breather, maybe like 30 seconds. Just say that like I need to gather my thoughts or something, and just take 30 seconds to gather your thoughts. And then if you know the answer, share it with the audience. And like it could be in a detailed manner, it could be in a simple, like short form, whatever it is. Like share the answer, and make sure that at the end of your answer, ask the person who asked the question that like, is this the answer to your question? So make sure that you have that assurance from the person who asked the question. And if you don't know the answer, okay, I don't know the answer to this question right now, but let me do my research and I'll get back to you in a timely manner with the answer. And say that's always professional. That's always the best thing to do. But make sure that as soon as you are done with your presentation, you do your research and get back to the audience member with the answer, because you have to have that credibility when it comes to answering a question. And the second question I have is like, what should come first, the script or the slide? So as I said, like it's always a good practice to write a script for your presentation. So this entirely depends on the speaker itself. You can just write the script first and then do the slides and then come back and revise the script. for me, when it comes to this presentation, what I did was like I first created a basic slide deck with all the points I have, like I'm planning to discuss, and then I wrote the script, and then I came back and redid all the like styling and everything on the presentation. So those are the like main content I have for today. Do you guys have any other questions? Yes, that's a good question. So Kim asked, how would you leverage audience participation during a presentation? A set of questions, a set of stats. So let's say that as an example, we do, let's take the same example as the how to do a presentation. So I can just ask a question from the audience that like, do you know how many presentations are recorded on Zoom in a week? So something like that, just to make sure that the audience is engaged throughout the presentation. So in a way, it doesn't have like, when it comes to these stats or everything, like it doesn't have to be the 100% correct, but it could be a ballpark figure. But when you're doing a presentation, as I mentioned, like to get the audience more engaged, you have to have like some kind of like an attention grabbing opening. It could be a series of questions. It could be some kind of a joke. And especially when it comes to technical subjects, you can like, the majority of our contents are like technical people, right? You can ask from an audience member that like, do you like, have you worked with this technology? And likewise, you can get that ball going. And the second thing is like, there's some kind of hack to make sure that the audience is a bit comfortable when it comes to asking questions and participating in this presentation. Have some kind of like role players in the audience, just to ask the questions, just to engage with the presentation. So the audience will feel a bit more comfortable. So as an example, let's say that I have a chat with Chris before the presentation saying that, can you please ask these questions during the Q&A session? And then I'm sending him the question. And then he can ask these questions during the Q&A session or throughout the presentation. So the majority of the audience will feel a little bit comfortable to ask questions. So that's a small hack to do that, but of course, like it's a area we have to like look into and do our testing when it comes to like how to get the best out of the audience engagement. And Kim, I hope I gave you an answer to your question. And of course, if you guys need more explanation on the matter, I can do my research and get back to you with a detailed answer. Perfect. All right. Do you guys have any other questions? Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, like when it comes to this part, looking at the camera. So if you have a multi-monitor setup, when you're doing a presentation, try to keep it as a stacked orientation. So you're always looking at the camera, but you're not looking sideways. You're just looking a little bit above the camera. So if it's possible, try to keep it in a stacked orientation, like I'm doing right now, because I'm looking at the script and looking at the camera at the same time. So it's much easier to handle it like that. Okay, yeah, we have another question. Oh, that's a really good question. So sitting or standing. So it's your preference, right? If you're comfortable with doing a presentation like sitting down, of course you can do that. But if you are like a speaker who's using your entire body, like body variations, like using the entire. Okay, I'm going a bit into Toastmasters as well. If you are using the entire stage, then of course you can like stand up and do the presentation. But if you have a comfortable chair without any like restrictions, then of course you can sit down and do the presentation as well. Right now I'm sitting down, but I have the flexibility to move my arms and get make sure that the audience is looking at me. So it's entirely up to you. And of course it's based on your content as well. Like if it's going to be a technical topic, then of course you can't just move here and there and like do the dancing presentation, right? So it's entirely up to you. Like you can look at the camera. You can maintain your like eye contact and everything. So it's always good. And I'm getting a lot of questions, so it's really interesting. Put the camera near. Yes, that like the answer, like Tony mentioned that to put the camera near the audience previews. Yeah, of course, that's always good. So in that way, like you can see a preview of yourself, but like you can do this if you have a separate camera. Of course, like I always recommend, like if you have a separate camera, keep it like near the keyboard. So you don't have to like look straight at the camera. You can just maintain the eye level contact. So it's much easier. And there's another question from Kim. Any tips to get over nerves? So, okay. So the first thing is, as I always mention, practice makes perfect. So I mean, like whenever, like back in the days when we try, like when we were like preparing ourselves for like presentations and completion speeches and everything, one thing our mentors always said was like, speak to yourself, speak to a camera, if not like speak to the mirror. So this has been like the go-to method to overcome your like nervousness and like getting over your nerves. But I would always say that writing a script, so this is my preferred method. Writing a script will always give you a better practice about the content. And you can't ask someone else to write the script and you can just read it. You have to write the script by your own, because you are putting your own thoughts into a paper, and then you know like what to think. Like whenever you say one word, you know what to expect in the next word, right? So it's always easy. And the second thing is like usually you can just first, as a first step, go through the read the script word to word. Just don't present it, just read it. Do it few more times when you're comfortable with the script, and then try to present it. Try to add body movements. Try to add the slide presentation. Try to move it here, move here and there. And then, like once you practice a bit more, at least 5 times, then you know that you are doing your best. So you don't have anything to be nervous about, because like you'll be nervous if you don't have the practice, if you are not comfortable with doing a presentation because of these reasons, right? But if you have the practice, if you know what to do, then you don't have to worry about your own mistakes. But of course there could be like unavoidable circumstances, right? So during a presentation you don't have to worry about any of those things. You are doing your part, you are delivering a message. Try your best to like be comfortable. Yeah. So, and of course Chris has his own remedy: 10 deep breaths, in through nose, out through mouth, and often works for me. Of course, like this, like it could be some kind of like a small meditation trick as well. So whatever thing you have to do, calm yourself down during a presentation, that will always help. And of course, as I mentioned, like during a presentation, it's all about your own style, right? So these structures and everything, as I mentioned, these are not rules by any means. You don't have to follow these things to the point. These are just tips to help you improve your skill, help to improve your ability to speak in front of an audience. So I hope Eric, Tony, and Chris, I answered your questions and I gave a better like idea about like how to deal with this situation. Do you guys have any other questions?
I have one last one. I think we hopefully can fit it in.
Yeah.
Often I've found that pace of a presentation is very important. I know you touched on it, you know, the speed of talking and things like that.
Yeah.
But it seems to be something that a lot of people struggle with, you know, how to keep a natural feeling pace that's not too slow that, you know, your audience is going to get bored, not too fast that they're completely lost and don't understand, you know, overall what the presentation is about. So do you have any tips on how to keep pace and how to keep on track?
Yeah. So again, a really good question, Chris, because this is something I'm trying to fix myself, because I've been doing Toastmaster for last 6 or 7 years, and this is something I'm still struggling, because like I'm a fast speaker, so I can't sometimes, like if I know things too much and if I'm excited about a topic, I always like go zing 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 and end of the topic. So something I always do, like again, this is not a presentation about writing scripts, but that's my solution to this as well. So my practice is like always keeping like 600 to 700 words within 5 minutes. That's the ideal phase. That's the usual phase I would always recommend. The reason being, like as I said, like a good point that Chris mentioned is like when we slow down a bit too much, then the audience will get a little bit bored. The audience might feel that it's a bit structured. We are just reading from a script. But if you keep the pace a little bit too high, then the audience might not get the best out of the what you explained. I hope you got the thing which I just explained and demonstrated. So likewise, if you can understand what you're saying, and of course, do a rehearsal, get maybe have a best, someone who's good at public speaking, and do a quick demo and get their opinion, and then redo the presentation. Because as I mentioned, this is a really good learning opportunity for us, these presentations, just to get the best for us. So it could be up to you, if you're going to have too much of a end, as in that's the correct word for that, punchlines. So if you have punchlines, then you might have add maybe 5 to 6 pause, 5 to 6 seconds pauses throughout your speeches. So you have to calculate that as well. So the best thing I would do is like understand your speaking style, do some kind of like a rehearsal, and get someone who has a bit of experience with public speaking and ask them to like evaluate your speeches and evaluate your presentation. Of course, like spending 5 minutes on a presentation is always like preparing for a presentation is always more helpful rather than like struggling for 30 minutes, right? So I always say like do the practice, do your part, and it'll like day by day it'll always like help you to improve your public speaking as well as presentation skills. Chris, I hope I answered your question. And if you guys need any tips on this matter, I of course have a series of blogs on my articles on my blog as well, and I can just share them with you as well. So let me know if you have any other questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. All right, perfect. So with that, okay, we are on time. Let's wrap it up for today, guys. As I said, like thanks a lot for being an awesome audience. If you guys have any questions, anything to clarify, shoot me a message on Slack or like read my articles, anything. I'll be more than happy to help you guys with this. That's all I have prepared for today. Again, thanks for being an awesome audience.